In this video, we are going to be learning all about translations. To start, if we take a look at the picture of the coordinate plane here, we see there are two triangles graphed on it. One is triangle ABC, and the other we're going to call triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So this problem tells us that a translation is shown in this picture, and we're asked to describe what a translation is. So there's a few different ways we could describe what's happening on the graph. We could say that the original picture was slid or shifted. And another way we could describe it is copy and pasted. Basically, a translation is relocating a picture or a point on the coordinate plane. And we could think about that as taking the original, copying it, and pasting it elsewhere. Which figure do we think is the original prior to the translation? That's going to be the one without the prime symbol, so that's triangle ABC. To describe the distance and directions that the original pre-image moved, we have to start by picking any two corresponding points. Regardless of which set you pick, we will all get the same answer. So you can pick A and A prime, B and B prime, or C and C prime. Let's say I pick B and B prime. I can see that the pre-image B was shifted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes to the right, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes down. Again, if you did that with A and A prime and C prime, you would get the same answer. So when it's asked to describe the distance and the direction, I'm going to say that it was moved 5 units right and 5 units down. That's how we would describe this translation in words. But very often we're asked to describe it symbolically or in kind of a notation format. So it says, can you fill in the numbers below to describe the translation? First, we're asked, well, what happened to the coordinate? Okay, think about the x coordinate first. Did it get bigger or did it get smaller? It got bigger. And in this case, it got bigger by 5 units. So I'm going to fill in that x became x plus 5. The y coordinate, however, decreased by 5 units. So I'm going to fill that in with minus 5. So this is one way to write the translation in a symbolic format. The other way is using the notation for translations, which starts with a capital T, T for translation. And we put 2 numbers in the subscript. So the numbers I'm going to put for this example are 5 and -5. Basically, the first number tells you, did the pre-image get translated left or right? And the second number tells you, did the pre-image get translated down or up? Left and down would be indicated by negative numbers. If you think about a coordinate plane, the negative values are to the left and downward. And right and up would be indicated by positive values. So in this problem, the right is positive 5, down is -5. So the next thing we're going to practice is taking symbol form like that and then putting it in word form and vice versa. So if I look at number 1, it asks us to express each of the following translations in words. For the first bullet point, I have a -4 and a +1. So remember, the first number indicates left or right. Since it's negative, I'm going to say that this was a translation left 4 units. The second number indicates down or up. Since it's positive, I'm going to say we translate up 1 unit. I'm going to follow suit on the next one too. 3 is positive, so that's right 3 units. Now the 6 is negative, so down 6 units. If I look at the third bullet point, 0, 5, the 0 means the x coordinate is not changing. We're not moving it left or right. So in this bullet point here, we are only moving up 5 units. The next 3 bullet points are asking us to do the same thing, but it's in that XY format that we saw above. Okay. So we're going to follow the same rules. If it's negative, that could be left or down, depending if it's next to the X or the Y. And if it's positive, that would indicate that it's moving right or up. So this one here, we're going to say if X is being, if we subtract 1 from x, that's moving left 1 unit, and we are moving down 9 units. In the next one, positive 6 and negative 3, that's right 6 units, down 3 units. And the last bullet point here, we are going to be moving left 7 units and up 2 units. Okay, for number 2, we're going to reverse it. It says express each of the following translations in proper notation. So I'm going to choose to write each one of them using the capital T. You could use the XY with the arrow format as well if you prefer. Okay. So first bullet point, 5 left, 8 down. Those are both negative indicators. So negative 5, negative 8. The next one, 2 right, 1 up. Those are both positive indicators. Our third bullet point is just 10 units to the right. So our first number is left or right, but we do need to indicate that up or down is not occurring in this translation, so we need to fill in 0 as a placeholder. And we're going to do the same thing on the next bullet point. We are going to put a 0 in as a placeholder for left or right, and then fill in 2 here. All right, next bullet point is 7 units up and 4 units left. So that's going to give me T, negative 4, positive 7. And if you were looking at that one and you thought it was going to be 7, negative 4, notice the little bit of a trick in this question. Normally, we've been seeing left or right show up first in the description, but this one has it flipped. So we're going to look at the left and right part first. That determines the first number in our symbol form, and then up or down. And we see that same trick in the last one here that we need to pay attention to. So this is going to be T, 3, negative 9. 3 indicating 3 units right, and 9 indicating 9 units down. Now that we've gotten a handle on translations in both word and symbol format, let's try some other practice questions regarding them. For these questions, like 3, 4, 6 on this page, you might feel that the graph is not necessary to get your answer, and that's okay. But they are here if we decide we want to use it. All right, number 3. The point negative 5, negative 2 is translated 4 units right and 1 unit up. What are the coordinates of its image? So I am going to graph on this one. So I'm going to start by plotting the pre-image, which is negative 5, negative 2. Graphing is nice because now it's just a matter of counting boxes. So I'm going to count 4 units to the right and 1 unit up. And wherever I land, that's going to be my answer. So the image in this case is negative 1, negative 1. Now, I mentioned before that you might feel the graph is not necessary here. Here's how you could get your answer without the graph. If we're going 4 right and 1 up, that translation is T, 4, 1, according to what we've practiced already in this video. And we're starting with the point negative 5, negative 2. So if we take a look, negative 5 and 4 both relate to the x value. And negative 2 and 1 both relate to the y value. So if I basically add 4 to the x value, I'm going to get negative 1. And if I add 1 to the y value, I'm going to get negative 1. And I can get my answer that way without ever plotting on the graph. So basically find the matching values, the 2 that relate to x coordinates, the 2 that relate to y coordinates, and combine them using addition or subtraction based on what numbers you have. Okay. In number 4, let's try that method again where we don't graph. Okay, again, if you would like to graph, go for it. But I'm going to try it without graphing. So I see that negative 5 and negative 2 both have to do with the x values. Combine them and I get negative 7. And I see that 9 and negative 3 both have to do with the y values. Combine them and I get 6. So the coordinates of A prime are negative 7, positive 6. Of course, if I wanted to really quickly, I will show you. If I wanted to graph Here's A, negative 5, 9. And I'm going to move it left 2, down 3 to get A prime. And that lands at negative 7, 6. All right, number 5, triangle A prime, B prime, C prime is the image of triangle ABC after a translation. Are the triangles congruent, and explain? So when we are copying and pasting or sliding a shape or shifting a shape, we're not changing the size of it at all, right? The lengths of the sides, the measures of the angles, they're not changing. So the triangles are going to be congruent. And the other reason behind this is because a translation is something called a rigid motion. And a rigid motion is basically a transformation that preserves distance and angle measure. So I'm going to put all of that information in a sentence here. So first I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to explain why. Because a translation is a rigid motion which preserves, and we could say distance and angle measure. We could say size and shape. I'll put size and shape here. And we could add to this if we wanted to, or write other variations of this idea. We could talk about that since the sides and the angles are not changing, that the triangles are congruent. We could put a little more detail in there. We could talk about how congruent triangles mean they are the same size. All of that kind of means the same thing, it's just a little bit different phrasing. All right, number 6. A prime 3, 3 is the image of A negative 1, 1 after a translation. If B is 0, 6, what are the coordinates of B prime under the same translation? So I'm going to choose to graph this one. So I know A is negative 1, positive 1. And I know A prime is 3, 3. And B is 0, 6. So I'm going to zoom in on this graph here. So we see that, or we're told that the same translation is happening. So if I look at this from A to A prime, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes right and 2 boxes up. So let's follow that same translation with B. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes right and 2 boxes up. And that tells me where B prime would be. So finally, we're just going to write what those coordinates are. So it looks like the coordinates of B prime are going to be 4, 8. All right, for number 7, state the coordinates of the image after xy becomes x plus 2y minus 3 and plot the image. So knowing what we talked about earlier in the video, I know that I'm basically moving this triangle right and down. So I'm going to take each point and I'm going to count 2 boxes to the right and 3 down. So let's start with T. Okay, so 2 to the right, 3 down, and I'm going to plot a point there, and that's T prime. Now I'm going to do the same with R. I'm going to go 2 to the right, 3 down, and finally the same thing with I. Okay, I'm going to connect them. And now I have triangle T prime, R prime, I prime. We could even see, by the way, that the triangles are congruent, kind of expanding upon our answer from number 5. And it asks us in this problem to state the coordinates. So I'm just going to write down those 3 points that we got. So T prime looks like it is going to be 1, negative 1. R prime is negative 3, negative 9. And I prime is 5, negative 9. All right, for our last problem, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to now do a translation of negative 1, 5. That means we are moving left and up. And we're going to write those coordinates too. So let's start with a point. Let's say I start with J, left 1, up 5, That gives me J prime. Let's continue doing that for the 3 remaining points. Once I have those points plotted, I'm going to connect them to form my new parallelogram. And now I'm just going to write down what those coordinates are. So J prime is -4, 8. K prime is 2, 8. L prime, 0, 5. And M prime is -6, +5. All right, hopefully this video helps you understand translations.